This video is sponsored by Earbusiness. The EU single market. It's the largest of its kind in the world, and it's built on the free movement of goods, services, capital, and people. But these freedoms are so far from completed.
Companies across Europe demand that we make business easier for them. Harmonization cannot wait. We need to complete the single market, and we have to do it fast.
The EU could become an economic superpower.
We have a full program of upcoming initiatives.
The 28th the savings and investment, a new fleet of omnibuses. Huh? So, the single market for services. What is the big deal here? Simply put, we just don't have a single market for services, as the IMF estimates that barriers inside the EU service market are equivalent to a 110% tariff between the member states. Yes, that's 110%. That's not just a little bit of friction here and there, but in Trump speak, it's a great big massive wall. And yet us Europeans panic about a possible 15% tariff from the United States. And the honest truth is, if we get EU cross-border down to 0%, we could literally increase our economy by 1 trillion euros every year. And then our transatlantic trade suddenly matters a lot less. Those numbers are big, but in this video, we really want to get into the details to really see how fragmented our service market really is. And for that, meet our fictional baker from France named Pierre. Pierre is a master of the baguette. In Paris, he's a local legend because his crust is perfection and his crumb a simple work of art. But Pierre is also a hopeless romantic, and he's fallen in love with a girl from Berlin and decided to pack his bags and move to Germany to start a completely new life. And since we're in the EU single market, you'd think Pierre could just rent a shop, fire up the oven, and start selling croissants to the masses in Berlin, right? Not so fast, Pierre. Welcome to the world of German bureaucracy. You see, in Germany, baking isn't just a job. It's a skilled craft, with roots going back to the Middle Ages. To own a bakery, you generally need to be a Bäckermeister. In English, that's a master baker. Now, in theory, the EU's free movement of services means Pierre's French qualifications should be his golden ticket. But in reality, it's just not that simple. Listen to this wild statistic. According to the Financial Times, in the entire history of the single market, exactly one French baker has successfully had their home country certificate recognized in Germany without a fight. Just one. So what does Pierre have to do? He basically has to go back to school. And to get that Meister certificate, Pierre is looking at time. 1 year of full-time study or up to 3.5 years of part-time. Money, tuition and fees that can easily top 10,000 euros. Not to mention the thousands more in lost wages while he's hitting the books instead of baking croissants. And the cherry on top, the exams are unsurprisingly in German. So, poor old Pierre has to learn new difficult words like Sauerteig, Hefeteig, or Vollkornmischbrot. Good luck, my man. But here's the thing, it's not just the bakers. In Germany alone, there are 53 different professions where you can't just set up shop. If you're a carpenter, a tailor, or a watchmaker, you're hitting the same brick wall. And if we zoom out further to a European level, you'll see that Germany is not the only culprit. Because Italy is the absolute master when it comes to rejecting qualifications from abroad. In my research, I read that they have the highest share of overqualified workers in the EU, stuck in low-skilled jobs, largely due to restrictive recognition rules. And across the EU as a whole, the numbers are just bad. In 2024, 1/4 of applicants seeking recognition of a foreign qualification were rejected outright, and add another 10% that were told to sit exams or undergo lengthy adaptation periods before being approved. Guys, we really need to do better here, because at the end of the day, what actually matters? The quality of your bread or a piece of paper? If you bake terrible bread, then over time people will just stop coming. It's as simple as that. And if your bread is good, you survive. or you might even thrive. The market economy that we have already solves this problem. So honestly, in my opinion, if you're a qualified baker in Poland, the Netherlands, or France, you should be able to get qualified in Germany automatically. Full stop. No medieval guild rules. Same EU, same market, same standards. It just makes sense. But this isn't the only single market for services problem. Let me give you one that could very realistically hit me here at EU Made Simple. As you know, I run EUMS here from Germany. And let's say I want to set up a subscription model. A few euros a month, and supporters get extra videos. Quite simple, right? So, let's imagine 3 people signed up. 1 from Spain, 1 from Italy, and 1 from Poland. And suddenly, I'm just not only running a YouTube channel anymore, I'm running a miniature tax department. Because digital subscriptions in the EU fall under destination-based VAT. That means I don't charge my country's VAT, I have to charge their country's VAT. And I need to do this at the correct rate for each specific country. 21% from Spanish customers, 22% from Italian ones, and 23% from Polish ones. And that means I need to know where every customer is actually based. And the moment I do that, I'm pulled right into GDPR territory. Data retention rules, security obligations, compliance, the whole lot. A lot of admin for me, basically. And on top of that, every quarter, I would have to file a VAT return through an EU system, breaking down my revenue country by country. Even if it's just 10 euros from Spain, 5 from Italy, and 4 from Poland. And here once again, the single market promises simplicity. But honestly, it just delivers a lot of paperwork. And according to a research paper by the European Parliament, companies across Europe spend a staggering 1 to 2% of their annual revenue on tax compliance, which is a lot. Now, I've only covered 2 examples here. One around professional qualifications and another around a completely fragmented VAT system. But there are plenty more. You've got diverging national regulations, where the same service is legal in one country and heavily restricted in another. You've got the posting of workers mess, where companies sending workers temporarily across borders drown in compliance rules before anyone has even done 1 day of work. And then there's the gold plating. Germany is a big culprit of this. Where EU rules exist, some countries decide to add extra national requirements on top, just because they can. So yeah, we have a lot to do. But the potential here is simply enormous, which we should take advantage of. Because the single market for services is bigger than the one for goods. It makes up roughly 3/4 of the EU's GDP, and around 2/3 of total employment. This is really where Europe's economy thrives. And to be fair to the EU, it is starting to move, with a bundle of initiatives aimed at fixing the services mess, like the Skills Portability Initiative, which would simplify and digitize qualification recognitions across borders, or the European Social Security Pass, giving workers EU-wide digital proof of social security coverage for cross-border work. This is what I think. As you know, I really like the Mercosur Agreement and the India Agreement, the 2 big trade deals which we completed this month. But those are not the biggest potential we have here in Europe. The biggest potential, as you see in this video, is our single market. And it also goes the longest way to ensuring our independence throughout the world. And that is why this is so important. Now, we have looked at some solutions that the EU is willing to take. But my worry is, do they actually go far enough? Because let's think about the national interests here. Germany is interested in keeping their very strict qualifications because in their eyes, nationally, it could protect jobs. And the same goes for VAT. I mean, think about it logically. Which country would be willing to potentially forego VAT taxes to make things simpler across Europe? I think only a few of them, sadly. So it would need a lot of political will and a lot of leaders getting together to make this happen. And I don't see 27 countries going for it together. And that is why I think the most realistic path is a coalition of the willing. You could, for example, have the Benelux countries plus Germany or anyone else that would like to decide to simplify things massively. For example, qualifications get automatically approved across borders, or VAT rules are simplified, the examples I gave before. And that would potentially create pressure for the rest to join later. And then good old Pierre from France could finally just bake and all of us across Europe could finally enjoy his baguettes. It's a German baguette though. This video is supported by Irbines, a European company, and I love supporting EU firms. They're a small Finnish graphic design studio working with clients across the EU, specializing in brand design and visual identities. Everything is done by hand, with no AI, using European and open source tools. So if you need a graphic design for branding, visuals, or social media, check them out. Link in the description below. And this video was all about services. But it's only part 2 of our 4-part series on how to actually complete the single market. If you haven't done so yet, check out our part 1 on goods, where we show how even something as simple as this small elephant IKEA tool can struggle to cross borders in the EU. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to our presidents. Kristin Peter Clement Daniel, Dev Upedia Giuseppe, HVD J Kiki Loxen, Maciej Mikael Rashid, Shaoqian Jan Stefan Unite Europe, Westervang and Ave Europa. See you in the next video.